Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Tracy Altman and I have the pleasure of doing a panel today really on one of my favorite topics, is customers. Because a lot of us talk about customers. I have a consulting business and I say to people, who's your target audience? And when they say everyone, I'm like, because in the world of marketing, you say everyone's your audience, really nobody is your audience. So I'm super excited about the people that we have and the panelists to really talk about that. This is a virtual event, so it would be no fun if we didn't have everything perfect. Karen Jenkins, you're going to hear her voice, but you're not going to see her pretty face today. And we're trying to get Marty on. So we're going to start with Christy and Angie to talk a little bit about who they are, what their companies do, who their target audience is, and a main lesson they've learned. On the right-hand side, there's comments, so please go ahead and put in questions, and we'll interact. We'll pull those into the session for the next hour. So Angie, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Hi there. Hi, Tracy. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see everybody today. So my name is Angie Vishyanan, and I am the CEO and founder of Legum Legal. We provide a nationwide mentoring mobile app and curriculum that connects pre-law students to lawyers for mentoring so they can learn a little bit about law school before they dive headfirst in. And so we have several different lines of customers. So we work with universities. We work with their pre-law advisors to identify students that want to participate in the program. And we sell our program directly to those universities. They pay for a yearly subscription. The students get it for free. And so that's one of our customer lines. Then we also work with law firms that partner with us so that they can get access to prospective law students to mentor, because there are well-established mentoring programs for law students, but no well-established mentoring programs for prospective law students, people who are thinking about going but have not gone yet to law school. So lots of law firms are realizing they need to develop their talent very, very early. So they need to go to like the college level or before law school. And that's why we're filling that gap. So we work with the legal employers and law firms. That's our second customer line. And then we actually do allow people to individually subscribe to our mentoring program as well. So you could come in if you are a working professional and you're not connected to a university and you want to participate in our mentoring program. So say if you're thinking about going to law school as a second career, but you're already an accountant or an engineer or something, we sell directly to individual consumers as well. So you can subscribe to our mentoring program on a monthly basis. And so we have three different main customer lines. We have individuals, universities, and then legal employers. And so we have to constantly grow every single pipeline, which is challenging. And one of the things that we learned during COVID is that we have to make sure that we're always in tune with what the customers need, because new things arise, new opportunities arise. And so when COVID hit, it was a big gut shot to the stomach for a lot of higher education. There were many universities that didn't have online mentoring solutions. So they had plenty of mentoring programs that were in person, but they didn't have the ability to take all their mentoring programs online very quickly. So a lot of their students who were used to interacting with their mentors in person were having difficulty now connecting with them. And so we stepped in, and we're a good way to get all of your mentors and mentees, talking together virtually, because our mobile app allows them to meet on video chat just like this. So it was actually a perfect solution. And so we really expanded our customer base a lot. We launched our first mentoring mobile app in January of this year, and then COVID hit. And at first we were like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? We're an early stage startup. We just launched our product. But it ended up being a great thing, because now so many of our customers that before would have just been stuck to their tried and true in-person mentoring programs have now really expanded their willingness to participate in an online virtual mentoring program. And so it really created a new opportunity for us to now partner with universities and educational institutions that in the past have not always been the quickest to adapt to new things. And so I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is really you need to listen to where the market is going and see, what are the biggest pain points for your customer, and the things that you originally thought might be pain points, like us trying to sell a virtual mentoring program when nobody was interested in buying a virtual mentoring program might change. They might completely go away because unexpectedly a pandemic hits and then everybody needs to be virtual. So really focusing on what do your customers need and how do you help them achieve their goals as quickly as possible. If you can tap into not just a need, but the timing, that is really, really the key. So being able to adapt very quickly and be nimble, especially as an early stage startup. If you already have an established product and you have established customers, then you might be able to figure out different ways to serve your existing base. But for us, since everything was brand new, it's really important that we listened to what was going on in the market and adapted very quickly. So that's me, and that's what we do, and those are my lessons.
All right, love it. Thank you so much. Panelists, I do want to remind you when you're not speaking to put it on mute because we are hearing a little bit of feedback. Christy, would you please go next?
Sure. I'm Christy Albayeto. I'm the COO and co-founder of Ayugo, which is a tax and accounting software and services company. So what that means is that we take a hybrid approach to how we serve our customer base, which are primarily startups and small businesses. And we use that hybrid approach because we've learned that we can't, in this industry of tax and accounting, you can't just put a robot in front of businesses and expect the robot to do all the work. And so I think we kind of saw that with Scale Factor. So we take the hybrid approach of understanding that. I understand. Sorry. And so I think. I can search the web for it. Speaking of technology.
Listen, Alexa wants to get in on this.
Yeah. So we take the hybrid approach and we allow the technology to work for us, the company and our accountants and tax preparers and CPAs, to make the operations more efficient so that we can then focus on customers and their specific needs, because not every business is the same. Although we do tend to target more of the tech companies and the e-commerce companies, we do have some from other industries as well. And so if we didn't have the efficient operations, then we wouldn't have the time to focus on their specific needs. And so building that relationship is so important for us and our target customers, because especially if they come in as a startup, you know, the goal is to grow. And so we grow with them. And similar story to Angie, you know, when COVID hit, you know, thankfully, you know, we had that technology to rely on. We were already used to using technology to work with our customers, and those that were primarily working with old school traditional CPAs, you know, were struggling because there wasn't an office to go to anymore. And so we were fortunate enough that we were in a good spot that we were able to support not only our customers, but other customers as well. So it's really important that in this day and age that, you know, technology is important, but then also understanding that the relationship with the customer is important as well.
Absolutely. And I think too, a good lesson is whether you're B2B or B2C, your customers still going through issues. They still, I mean, you have to remember that there's not a different strategy, right? You still have to be flexible. You still have to understand that the world is changing, you know, and even if you're a business customer or a consumer customer, there's a lot going on. You got to be flexible.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Thank you so much. Marty, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Good. It is so good to see you. So tell us a little bit about your company and your target audience and one of the main things you've learned.
Absolutely. So I'm Marty McDonald. I am the CEO and founder of Boss Women Media. Boss Women Media is an offline, online women's empowerment community and media company. We create experiences for women to connect through the lens of brands, specifically brands that are targeting African-American millennial women to be a part of their target audience. And so, you know, when I say offline, online, it's really interesting because now everything is online in the space of, you know, post-COVID-19. And so at the beginning of this year, we had a robust, really experience plan in place through large Fortune 500 partnerships that was going to take a 7-city tour called a partnership with Capital One. And we really had to make a pivot in that, considering we were going out on the road the week before COVID-19 really hit and became a thing in Texas. And so we made the shift and decided to move our Black Girl Magic 7-city tour to a virtual summit. And really, it's been probably one of the most, the silver lining of our organization in a unique way. 2 weeks ago, we had the Black Girl Magic Summit. We had 17,000 women attend our virtual event in 45 states and 31 countries represented. And it just goes to show in a footprint of a space, you could never have that many people from around the globe be a part and take part in such a dynamic event. And so really what this has taught me was, don't think in the box, think outside of the box, think in parameters of what can your expansion plan be, and don't limit yourself to the expansion plan of what you think your business can be. And don't be afraid of the technology that's in place. And so I think that 2019 has really showed us that we are a global organization, and that we have global reach, and that we're just going to continue tracking and fighting for our women to get the right tools, the right resources, so that they can thrive in their careers. In terms of who our customer is, as I mentioned, our customer is the African-American millennial woman who has often been overlooked and overthought of. And I think that we're in a really unique space post George Floyd that has brought conversations into play, conversations that have been uncomfortable for some people, to really lean into adversities that color face, but specifically Black people face in America. And so we are advocates of being a change maker and being the voice for our community to make sure that they have the right tools, that they have the right resources, that they have the right opportunities that sometimes are just not afforded to us. And we do that in a unique way by showcasing other women who are doing the things that our community desires to do. And we showcase the stories of Black women, of brown women who have paved the way and are creating seats at the table for others.
I just think so many good points. One is, if I talked to you a year ago, and you know your brand, I love your Bosch brand, I just love the name. If we talked to you a year ago, you would never have said you were a global company. Right?
For sure.
And so
For
I
sure.
love that. Yeah, and I think entrepreneurs and women, we need to think bigger. I think maybe the pandemic with all the crazy has also allowed us to think bigger, and to your point, reach and touch people. Even Dallas Startup Week, we've got people from Ohio, we've got people from Boston on here. So I think, but I think it's allowed us to be more creative, and as entrepreneurs, we can pivot better, like Angie was saying, than maybe a large corporation. So, and I do want to get back to how we serve the Black and the brown community, because I think it's a very important lesson. And I think, again, the good news, right, I'm going like this, with the pandemic is it allows us to really be more strategic around serving all people, not just our, what we've done before. So let's have that conversation in a minute as well. Karen, I'm super excited to see you. Karen works for Capital One, who is the major sponsor of Dallas Startup Week, and has, as I've said before, they don't just give us money. They give us time, they give us personnel, they help us develop the programs, and they have programs for minorities, women, to really help them in the entrepreneur community. So we couldn't do this without Capital One. So I'm super happy to see you, Karen, and joining us in a really great conversation. Oh, you're on mute. No, I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There you go. Perfect.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties all morning. Am I echoing to you?
Yes. Do you have another application open?
Let me see.
if you have like Zoom open or Microsoft Teams, you do have to get out of it. The microphones don't like each other.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, good. So yes, as Tracy said, I'm with Capital One. Our business segment is businesses from 2 million to 25 million. We love certain industries, but we look to help all industries. This is a wonderful group that we've been part of. It's a wonderful thing for us to support, and we look for opportunities for small businesses. And when I say small, it's that 2 million to 5 million, because they're really still good-sized businesses, but they're the rapidly growing segment of the market. Our segment, that 2 to 25, is the largest segment in the US. So there's a whole lot more activity there and a lot more opportunity there than there is in the larger businesses, because there's not that many of those multi-million. They're way larger. But this segment is filled with great entrepreneurs, folks that are looking to start a dream and turn it into a reality. And I love this segment. It's the segment I've been I've been part of for probably 20 years of my career. I've been in that business banking space. The company supports it avidly, and we do a lot outside of even events like this. We do a lot to try and coach people and businesses up to get them to the point where their dream has become a reality. We absolutely do a lot with SBA. We do a lot with women-owned business. So we're looking for opportunities all the time to make sure that we're leaving a really good mark on the community and that we're supporting businesses from the infancy stage on. And it's really tough to start. I think for the entrepreneurs, they're so brave because they come into this and they're throwing themselves out there and doing their level best to create a business that's going to be viable, that's going to be a long-term win for them and their family. And we want to be in lockstep with them, helping them achieve those things. So my group, I have a Dallas and a South Lake team, and I have a new market in Arizona that we're just building. So we're expanding our presence and our brand outside of our branch footprint. We have branches, all over, but we've got cafes, which are a new model for us in new markets, and that's where the expansion's taking us. So we're looking to do a lot more virtual, as all of you have said. With COVID, there's been a dynamic shift in people working from home, but also in their embracing and acceptance of digitizing their business. And so we're working on a lot of tools to make sure we are there to support folks that maybe weren't as digital before COVID hit, but are now leaning in and having really to do a lot of things differently than they were doing 6 months ago. So I'm super excited to be here and looking forward to talking more about the clients and our customer bases.
Great. And, I think the cafes were a very interesting brand idea for Capital One, because I think it really warmed the brand up a little, and the fact that people now use you as a resource. I thought when you guys did that was a brilliant move, because it does give you access to so many more people as well. So again, looking at things a little differently as a brand and the customers that you serve. Ladies, let's talk a quick minute about messaging. I meet with a lot of customers like, we have to be on Twitter. And I'm like, no, you don't. There's a lot of vehicles out there, and people are like, do we do not direct mail, but are we online with email, social channels? Can each of you talk about one channel that maybe helped you explode your business, or that you thought, oh my gosh, I don't have time for that, but it ended up being a really important tool? Angie, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, so during this time, we've actually really grown our LinkedIn activity. So prior to COVID, I was using LinkedIn, probably like many people use LinkedIn, like a glorified resume. And I didn't really do a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. I would post from time to time, but usually I would just share articles that I thought were interesting. But we really found that all of our key audiences were on LinkedIn, and they were adopting it and growing their engagement in droves. And so we really put in a lot of effort into creating content for LinkedIn during this time. So I started hosting these weekly Zoom meetups that we would promote on LinkedIn. And we started getting students who were interested in our program from all over the nation. And while we were very, very strong presence here in Texas, doing all of our LinkedIn promotions helped us grow to like literally nationwide. So we really bet big on LinkedIn. we started creating LinkedIn groups for current law students, pre-law students, and I started connecting with a lot of pre-law advisors at universities on LinkedIn. We got so much LinkedIn success that a lot of pre-law advisors were interested in what we were doing. So we started hosting webinars for pre-law advisors on what they should be doing on LinkedIn to help reach their students. And so that's definitely been a killer platform for us. If your customers are in higher education, like, you've got to be on LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah,
excellent.
for sure.
Christy, I'm assuming the same is true for you, but have you had another tool that you've been successful with?
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I hate to always follow Angie because we seem to be along the same path of what we use and how we've succeeded. But another thing that we've used also, it's gonna sound crazy, but the meetups. We were hosting also through that. We created a tax and accounting group where targeted small business and entrepreneurs and startups. And so through that, people would come to these free webinars to learn about the basics of tax and accounting and what they needed to know for their business. And so being that resource, a lot of startup owners would realize that they don't want to do it all themselves. And so, or they didn't know what they were doing. So they would need our help with that. And so we found that, and we were doing this even before COVID. And of course, it just helped even after COVID hit because everyone was looking for those online resources. So for us, Meetup was a great resource, I guess, social platform that we use to help other entrepreneurs.
Exactly. I totally get that. Marty, obviously you're a B2C customer. So talk a little bit about your favorite tool that you use in terms of messaging.
Absolutely. Well, I think that there's such an opportunity right now with social media, where some large brands have pulled advertising dollars, right? Because of budgets, because of restraints, whatever, because of the cancel culture that's in front of us right now. I think that if you are a small business right now, Facebook ads and running Facebook ads is such an opportunity for you to grow your business. And so when, post us really promoting the Black Girl Magic Tour, we were doing Facebook ads for our membership program, which is called Boss Connectors. And so we were seeing an influx of members come in from that program from $100 spend on Facebook ads because the marketplace wasn't as cluttered with people who may have been spending thousands or millions of dollars on ads. And then I would also say, we've really just taken a grassroots approach to social media. When we launched our Black Girl Magic Tour, the event was free to the public, and we sent the first 5,000 women a Boss Box. And in that Boss Box was basically like your swag bag if you came to the event live. And we had them post on social media, and they became our brand ambassadors, our advocates, right? So all of their followers became our followers. Within a week's time, we saw an increase of between 5,000 to 7,000 new followers just that week alone. And so social media is an avenue of which we empower, we inspire, we motivate our women, right? But then our women do the same back for us to their community. So I just think it's such an untapped tool that sometimes people feel they can't pay to play, right? Or they have to pay to play.
Right.
But in actuality, right now, this is the time to get a little piece of the market share.
Great advice, especially you're right, and the big guys not being in it, we can actually get in there. Karen, besides LinkedIn, what is Capital One? Do you have a favorite tool that you use in terms of talking to people, communicating with them?
LinkedIn is really one of our strongholds, but we have started to migrate to Facebook as well. We've got some training for our associates so they can be a social associate is what we've deemed it, but it allows them to use different vehicles, share Capital One stories, or share positions that might be open, or things that we're sponsoring, or things that we're interested in. And so I think that those platforms are the best way to reach the mass audience, and it lets you craft your message from a corporate perspective. And then all the little upside is sharing it so easily across a wide band of people. So I think Facebook will become more of a user friendly for us than it has been in the past. But I definitely feel like LinkedIn and Facebook are the two that we would lean into the most.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we forget that B2B business people are also on Facebook. Yeah. So you get so focused on it, but they're also there. So it might be an opportunity just for a little bit of branding to move them to LinkedIn for the business conversation. But a lot of business people are on there anyway. So Marty, let's go back and talk about race and talk about the entrepreneurs and target marketing, because obviously it's a hot topic for many reasons. So how do the women entrepreneurs, who are minorities as well, how do we be intentional about walking the walk and making sure that our product that we're communicating and reaching out and pulling in Black and brown women to all of our businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first of all, you have to understand the adversities that Black and brown women face, right? So the facts are that 1,800 women of color start businesses every year, but none of them above poverty level, right? The facts are African American women make up only 1% that raise venture capital funding, right? So the resources are just not readily available. You have to be equipped as an ally to know what the barriers are that's in place for the Black and brown women, right? So I think that that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to be ready to have conversations that you may not have normally had before, that may feel a little comfortable for you or feel tough for you, but don't allow the Black and the brown woman to be your educational resource only. Make sure you're going out and educating yourself. Make sure that you're creating diverse circles of people that you're hanging out with, that you are surrounding yourself with, that you are most importantly doing business with. If you're not a person who has supported a Black or brown business, then you're a part of the problem and not a catalyst to the solution. And there's tons of businesses that you can support. So finding those right resources. We have a directory on bosswoman.org that highlights Black-owned businesses. We have about 1,500 Black-owned businesses on our website right now. You can use that as a resource to go support. But I think that most importantly, the shift happening. So we cannot allow this shift to get stagnant. We can't allow this shift to be what happened during COVID-19 of 2020. But instead, we have to continue to be the change makers to make our world more inclusive for the generations to come.
I think those are great. So I will tell you a quick funny story. When everything got to its peak, I called my Black friends and I said, okay, what do I need to do? And they said exactly what you said. I'll talk to you after you educate yourself. And I think it's a cop-out, to be very honest, for white folks to say, tell me what to do. And I need a checklist. I think we have to get educated, and I have to think, you have to lead with your heart and your mind on this topic. And I love what you said about being part of the problem versus part of the solution. And I think we have to retrain ourselves to be more intentional, because then it will become part of our behavior. Like right now I have to think, where am I going to dinner? And if I'm thinking, hey, I want to support a Black or brown organization, then eventually that will be in my mindset. And now I've just got to push myself to be more intentional. And I think
that even with that, if you have small kids, you're showing your kids what diversity looks like. You're showing your kids that it's not just a North Dallas versus a South Dallas living situation. You're showing your kids that there are opportunities to explore all diversities, that all people are accepted, that all cultures are accepted. That's how we change the next generation.
Absolutely. You really are the boss.
No, not all the time.
Gals, anything to add to this conversation about how you may or may not be targeting, or things that you learned to help grow the brown and Black women community, but really overall?
Yes, actually, I would love to chime in on this one. So our program actually focuses on helping first-generation students and underrepresented minorities, because the legal profession is one that is very, very male-dominated, and it is also very, very white, honestly. So I think overall, when we work with our educational partners, we really try to identify students that are first-gen, people who are underrepresented, who wouldn't have access to mentorship otherwise, who have really difficult times building their first professional relationships, and really targeting that audience, because I think we wanted to be really intentional about helping people that probably wouldn't already have the connections to gain mentorship. And I think that you'll find, especially in the legal profession, that mentorship is extremely important for your success. And so I think that it's one of the things that you are severely disadvantaged if you don't come from a family of lawyers, or if you don't have people who already can give you those connections. And so we work on leveling the playing field by giving people who wouldn't have access to mentors a mentor who can guide them. And so I think it's really important that we do that as entrepreneurs as well. When you see other minority women entrepreneurs, find ways that you can help each other, find ways that you can partner with each other, and leverage the fact that all of you have like a shared experience in a way, to build closer connections with each other. Because I think one of the things that I focus on a lot is not coming from this idea of scarcity, like that only a few of us can succeed. I think all of us can succeed, and I think you have to be willing to bring people on with you, and that will grow your success much faster.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it's first generation. I love that you're targeting that. And I think for those women entrepreneurs that are listening today, there is a lot of first generational issues. So the fact that you're out there talking about that directly to people, finding that white space for minorities, whether it's women, Black or brown or Asian, really, I mean, the whole group is for women entrepreneurs to be smarter. That's what I hope. I hope that we're thinking differently than the norm, the entrepreneur 10 years ago. Christy or Karen, do you guys want to chime in on what your businesses may or may not be doing, or things that you're learning? Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, so I'll chime in. I'll chime in. So for us, we have a lot of our customers are from all over. Background wise, one of our favorite customers to work with, Mazizi International, they sell apparel for Black Lives Matter. They bring a lot of the African culture here to the US through apparel. And so we love working with them and supporting them in any way that we can, because they're doing so much for the community. And also, naturally, we attract a lot of Hispanic community, a lot of Hispanic entrepreneurs that are just starting out. We will, a lot of times, free, help them get on their feet so that we build that relationship with them. We know that as they grow, they're still going to want our services, and we'll be here for them. But as an outreach, because a lot of them don't know what to do when starting a business, we really like to be that resource for them. And then even within our own team, we have a very diverse team. We have a predominantly female staff, and then with cultures from all over. And so we also feel it's important that we have that diversity on our team, so that we have different points of view and perspectives on how we reach out to our potential new customers. It helps us, having that diverse perspective helps us really appreciate and be able to welcome anyone, and they know that that we are that open type of company.
Right. And I think we can't target, I can't target athletes without having an athlete on my team, right? Because they think and feel differently. And I think if you don't have an African-American woman, man, or brown, if you don't have them I think the other point that you made, Mari, which was good, is really understanding what they've gone through, where they are, what they're doing, especially in entrepreneurship, because they're underserved. and then being part of that solution. So I think to not have them on your staff is a huge miss. And I can't understand in 2020 how staffs can be all white or all men. I still am sitting in boardrooms with all men. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? Karen, you want to chime in?
Yeah, so Capital One has an enormous diversity, inclusion, and belonging group. And it's taken off. It's added a lot of value to our associates to learn how to have the dialogues with their peers, their colleagues, their friends. And it allows us to experience a safe environment to ask questions. So I think that's where we're getting a lot of educational opportunities to know exactly who our audience should be and what our approach should be. Secondly, we just launched, we're a founding partner for Small Unites, which is we're partnering up with GoFundMe, the Urban League, and we're setting up a platform for small businesses to go in and get resources, tools, like tips and tricks, and then for our associates to be able to share that a business that they love on social media, to donate if they chose to donate to a business that they love. There's a way to do it through GoFundMe. So I think that's a really nice alliance for us. And it's going to allow us to pick small businesses in our communities to work with, to go be a customer to, and then give them all the broadcasted social media that we can, to give them, a wide audience, a broader platform of people to see that business, so we can support it by being a consumer, but also then donate and share across social media platforms. And it just launched on Monday this week, so it's fairly new. There'll be
what is the name of it again?
Small Unites.
Okay, just so everybody on.
Yeah, there'll be some hashtag Small Unites coming, and you'll see it on LinkedIn. Several of our social associates are sharing it now. There'll be a lot of information coming. It's fairly new, but I love that we've started something that's going to allow every person in their own community to support a small business, regardless of, it can be any small business that you love, and there's going to be several ways to show your support within that community.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's I'm actually a part of it, Karen. Right?
Oh, good.
So
yeah.
everyone has been an ally for really just bringing some unique opportunities and changes to the marketplace. So keep being that change agent for sure. They are definitely an ally.
Yeah. Marty, I'm going to ask you this question, and I also want everyone else is, let's talk about authenticity and transparency about the issues. Because I was really, as a marketing person, I was really interested in how people were communicating during George Floyd really. Talk a little bit about, because I think it makes, I did work with customers that were nervous. They said, oh, I don't want to say, like, if I don't say anything, I'm bad. If I do say something, I don't say the right thing. Can you, and then all of us maybe talk a little bit about how you managed through it? Because I think from a communication and knowing your target audience, I think this is an issue we have to be transparent, authentic about. How do we do it in the right way?
First, I want to just say I am a Black woman who does not know all Black people problems, right? Like, I don't know every issue. I only know what my experience has been, my friend's experience has been, my husband's experience has been as a Black man, right? But I don't know everything. So it also can be a little daunting as well, right? In terms of making sure that you're saying the right thing. I think one of the things that Boss Woman Media took the approach on firsthand is letting everyone know who we stand for, right? And so we are for American women and women of color. And see, I think that sometimes we joint them all together and think that that's checking our boxes of everything, right? But it's not. So we are first and foremost for African American women and for women of color and white women allies. We don't alienate anyone from Boss Woman Media, but we want the women who are a part of Boss Woman Media to understand that if you are a white woman, you are the minority, which is, when you think about the world, that's not the case. Oftentimes, when we have events, especially sometimes in Dallas, and we have white women come, they ask us, can we come? And I say, we want you to come. We want you to hear the stories, connect with other women, be a part of the solution. But if you're uncomfortable being around people who don't look like you, don't come. And I think that sometimes that is a fear that we have, right? And it's something that our city has to overcome. And so I have a board of women. On my board of women, I have 4 white women on our board, 4 Black women on our board. So we are not, I'm clear on who we are, but we don't alienate anyone just because of their skin color. And I think that if we all took the approach of saying, we want to learn more, right? But when you were talking a little bit earlier, I was the Black woman in corporate America who was the only one at every organization that I worked in the marketing department. That's a problem. It's a problem if you are in spaces and places and you don't see other people who look like you. And so we have to be a part of creating those solutions. But in understanding and knowing your customer segment and set, make sure that you are providing them with what they need based on who they are and where they're at. And I think that we've just been really clear, really intentional. And I think that some companies who just put a black box up to make sure that they counseled by the future, but they didn't know what to say was a mistake. And I also think that there's a lot of companies who came out and said, we're going to create this fund. We're going to create this fund. We're going to create this fund. There's so many funds right now that are quote unquote being created, but don't give them to the same organizations. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. If you want change to happen, the people who are in the departments who are reaching out to organizations have to look like the people that they're reaching out to. It can't be the same people. And so I think that as we continue those types of conversations, right, across the board and knowing your customer from B2B or B2C, it's not a one solve. There's multiple layers to it. And admitting and knowing, hey, I don't know everything about everything, but these are the tactics. This is what I'm going to put in place to make sure that I'm creating an inclusive community.
I think that's great advice for all the women listening and starting. Gals, you want to add on to that? Anybody?
Yeah, I want to chime in on this. Yeah, for me, okay, so I think I want to be very transparent in saying when the Black Lives Matter movement really struck up this summer, even more with the death of George Floyd, there were many issues that I had to educate myself about. I think what's really important is that we examine our own ignorance. We make sure that we don't be afraid to jump into conversations because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing. I think that it's way more important that you acknowledge your own ignorance and that you acknowledge, hey, I don't know everything about this topic and I'm trying to learn. And if I say the wrong thing, please help correct me. I want you to help correct me and make sure that you're creating forums where people can openly talk about these issues, create an open dialogue about these issues, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. So like, for example, with our mentoring program, we talked to our students and we said, hey, we want to just have a virtual chat about some of the issues that are going on right now and see how is it impacting you as a student? How do you feel about these issues? Are you scared to engage in them? Do you want to talk about them? And I think that it's important to just acknowledge, like, we're not all going to say the right thing. Like, we aren't. I'm going to mess it up sometimes, and that's totally okay. But it's better that you talk about it than you stay silent, because nothing will change if we stay silent. So it's better if you're the bull in the china shop and you're just acknowledging it and you just jump right in and you just start, breaking down walls. That's fine. That's way better than you staying silent because you're afraid of saying the wrong thing. So I think that that's just really, really important to acknowledge, like, hey, we're all going to make mistakes when we talk about these sensitive issues. Some of them, I'm not an African-American woman, I'm an Asian woman. I don't know about all of the issues that face African-American women, but I'm starting to learn about them. And the more that you can learn and educate yourself, don't make your minority friends do all the work for you. They are not there to, be your educational system. Like, you need to go do the work for yourself, educate yourself on these issues, and then start asking, what their opinions are and engaging them in these issues. And because I think that when you expect other people to educate you about these issues and you don't do a little bit of research on your own, you're creating, this uncomfortable position for your minority friends, because they're like, yeah, but we want to talk to you about this, but we're exhausted about talking about this. And we need you to do a little bit of work beforehand before you engage in this issue. So to me, I think go ahead, forge in, dive in, talk about the issues, don't stay silent, educate yourself first as much as you can, and then, go and engage in the dialogue.
Absolutely. And I think, again, being that conduit to your target audience and getting them involved in the conversation. And as women, we tend to listen more. I mean, that's a fact. So as women entrepreneurs, we're women, and plus we're entrepreneurs, I think we can be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
And when I started learning about these issues, just one last thing. When I started learning about these issues, all the things that I was reading, I was sharing those. I was sharing those resources on LinkedIn. I was sharing them in other places, saying, okay, this is what I'm doing to educate myself in case you haven't, if you're interested in these issues, but you haven't found these resources, go find them and look at them now. I think that as much as we can do to help spread the information and spread the word as we're educating ourselves, the better off everyone will be.
I totally agree. Let's see. We have 15 minutes left. I'm gonna go to the questions. Please hold. One of them was something along the line of, tell us something that didn't work. Like, tell us something you were maybe excited about, but it just didn't work. Because I think we learn more from our mistakes sometimes. Do you guys have any answers to those?
I have one.
All right, go ahead, Karen.
I would say that we get very comfortable thinking we know our customer, especially if we've had our customer for a while. And we go into it kind of treating the business like, well, I already know your business. I know your business plan. I know what you need. And I think I've served you well in that regard. But what I think we stumble on is that businesses are always evolving. And especially this year, there's been such a dramatic shift to how people do business. And I've had to caution my sales teams, like, guys, go in as if you're learning. Like, don't go in assuming you know how they're operating today, because it's different than how they were operating 5 months ago or 8 months ago or last year. The economy is different. The way we go to market is different. So what doesn't work, and what I continually see us trip over, is the assumption that, hey, I had this conversation with you 6 months ago when we went through everything, how your cash flows in, how your cash flows out. I'm sure that hasn't changed. We have to look at those interactions as brand new every time, because there's always something to learn, and there's going to be always something to take away from that or give to them that they didn't have before you sat down. So I really don't, I just never recommend complacency or assuming knowledge. I think we have to go in with a fresh eye and say, tell me what's going on, tell me what's changed, tell me what's working, tell me what's not, and treat it like it's a brand new relationship, because otherwise you're going to get comfortable, giving them the same thing you've always given them, and that doesn't always work.
Exactly. Excellent.
Anybody else? I'd like to jump in too.
Sure. Go ahead, Christy.
I'd like to jump in. So one of the things that's easy to do when you're first starting out is you want to take on any customer that shows a little bit of interest, but that customer may not always be the right fit. And so recognizing that you got to find that target customer that you're going to serve well, because it's not going to serve either one of you well if you can't give them 100% of what they need. And so being selective and recognizing, you know what, this might not be the right fit for either one of us, and being honest with yourself and with that potential customer, because otherwise you start building that bad reputation for your name, and you don't want to start out like that. So, so just being selective with who is your customer, in a way that, again, is just the best for all involved.
That's a great point, because sometimes you can spend so much time on that rabbit hole and then you're ignoring the thing that you originally started out with, because you just want that customer and that revenue. Excellent point.
I would add
Marty,
to it.
something for you?
I would add one thing that I learned was the systems that I put in place post-COVID are not the systems you can keep in place. But sometimes you you've done all of this work, right? You've created this process this way, and it just feels, well, we're going to go back, but we don't know if we're going back. We don't know what back looks like, right? So one of the lessons that I've learned is just being nimble and not being stuck to your idea, your way, and making the changes and the adjustments needed. Specifically with our membership program, it was really catered towards events that we would have. So you could sit front row, you could talk to speakers backstage, you could do the meet and greets, right? All of these perks that were in place that made the membership program seem very different and unique if we took those things out, right? And so we had to explore ways of where people were right now, what people needed today to push that out. And so I think that one of the lessons that I would just share with anyone is don't be afraid to make the changes, even if you just launch something to fit today's environment.
Excellent. Everyone should be having a meeting about the things we learned from COVID, what we're going to take with us going forward, and what we're going to lose going forward. I think that's an excellent, excellent point. And it also reminds us that our business plan has to be flexible. Some people think, well, it's in writing. We got it. It's like, no, it should be an evolution as the industry changes and as your consumer changes. So one last question. Wow, I can't believe we've already been on almost an hour. I could talk all day to you guys. Something a lot of people ask us for because they want to know, what are successful people reading? So whether it's a blog, whether it's following somebody on Twitter or Facebook, or a book. I'll start with you, Christy. What is something that you've read or that you do all the time that you want to share with folks?
So I am an avid reader of keeping up with technology. I want to know the newest things out there, especially once you start working outside of a big corporation. You're not always in the know of the corporation bringing you the technology, and sometimes you got to go find it yourself. And so I like to keep up with some tech blogs, CNET and Tech News, and there's several out there that I will skim over in the mornings and just see what's going on. Is there something new and emerging that I need to keep my eye on? Because what we use now, Zoom is great, or Slack, but people are always coming out with something better. And so what are those things? And so that's what I like to read about.
All right, great. Karen, how about you?
I love the Business Journal. So whether it's a local or if it's, the Wall Street Journal, I love to keep up with what's happening in the economy, but also in the finance industry, because that's where I sit. And I think that there's lots of local great stories, great startups, great success stories. So those are things I think that as a banker, a lifelong banker, that's the way I keep my thumb on the pulse of what's happening in the industry that I live in.
Nice. Angie?
Yeah. At the beginning of COVID-19, when all of these things were happening and I thought my business was going to die on the vine, I was freaking out because I'm an early stage founder. So I think, one of the biggest things that I was concerned about is, how do I control my anxieties about what's going on in the market right now? How are we going to survive all of these things? And so I was looking for resources about self-care and well-being. So I started doing the course, The Science of Well-Being, on Coursera. It's a Yale professor who launched this course at Yale that actually ended up being the most popular course at Yale about the science of well-being. How do you tap into your own happiness? How do you, create habits that will make you a happier person, that will allow you to tap into your productivity and not allow you to worry so much. I think self-care is so important right now, especially for entrepreneurs, because it's so easy for us to work ourselves into the ground. You just really, really want your baby to survive. So it's really easy for you to just go all in all the time and think, I'm going to work 24 hours a day. And that's just not going to serve anybody. That's going to burn you out. It's going to kill you, and you're not going to be able to serve anyone. So I think it's really important to maintain your own well-being. And I would highly recommend the course. It has all these great reading materials. And I just did it this summer and it was fantastic. So yeah, I'll drop the link for it in the chat.
Great suggestion. I read a lot about it, but I haven't done it. All right, Marty, last but not least, a blog or a book that you've read recently or something that you follow.
Yeah, so one of my favorite books is You Are a Badass. It's just really about mindset. And so Jen Sincero is the author of it. And so it was one of the first books that I read when I first decided to quit my corporate gig. And I think mindset is something that you have to work on every single day, and knowing that possibilities, opportunities are going to come your way, right? And that you are worthy for those. But since this pandemic, and I've been at home more, I've really watched and taken part of Squawk Box on CSNBC. That's what that's my TV is tuned into that every single day. And it just keeps me informed on what's happening in the marketplace, what jobs are doing well, what stocks are performing well, what jobs are doing layoffs, who's coming out with new technologies, simply because that impacts our business, right? And it just gives me an insight into where our community needs to go and the information that they need based off of what's happening. And so that's a really good resource that I've been able to lean into every day.
I love what a unique set of what you guys all listen to. I mean, that was very unique from every perspective. So thank you so much for giving back to the women community. I think, Women of Innovation and Dallas Startup Week is all about helping other entrepreneurs, whether it's to get them excited or to give them some very actionable stuff we talked about today. So thank you very, very much. For everyone who's watching, we're going to do a quick turnover, and the next session is breaking through the clutter, which is a great thing after we talked about this at 11:20. So we will see everybody back here at 11:20. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.